Hi, this is Leora Alderson here today with Rhegina Sinozich. She is an intuitive psychotherapist with over 25 years of experience, an author and international motivational speaker. And she's an emotional alchemist and an unabashed champion for the happiness and full potential of her clients. She makes no apologies for that because she knows that the core of her being, what's possible for them, the sheer joy that awaits them when they step into their authentic selves. So the core of their being is what awaits them when they step in to their authentic selves. What an amazing work to do, and what an amazing contribution to the world. So welcome, Rhegina Sinozich.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. Hi.
Hi. And you, I discovered you when you made a comment on Diane Cardassi's interview, Diane Cardassi, the artist. And I was interested because I saw the name of your site from your email, which is Balloon to the Moon. And I immediately wanted to go and check out the website, as I hope everybody will do. You have such a gift with words. Your words are not only poignant, succinct, articulate, but they're also poetic, and you're really good with phraseology. But I would like to start this morning hearing a little bit about how, so Boomers Reinvented, just to give you a little background, we're about the concept that, our second half of life can be the most amazing yet, that in a way for many of us, we're just getting started. I'm 56, and I feel like I have at least 50 years, a whole 50 years. And what am I going to do with those amazing years? My husband just celebrated his 62nd birthday. And in the last 2 years, he's published a novel and has gotten involved in even coaching high-level investing. And all this is new. So for you, and so that's the thing, is to encourage people not to wind down, but to rev up and tap in to their authentic selves. So how did you discover that within yourself? That started, because I'm sure that's what started your journey.
That's the $1 million question, right? Oh my gosh. And I know people have these nice little packaged stories. I so don't.
Okay.
So over and over in my life, I feel like where I have ended up looking at my life makes absolute and complete sense. It was sort of there in the making when I was small. It was there at every single level. There's no friend, even my elementary school friends, who are surprised by what I do. No college friends. It's like, well, of course that's what you do.
Wait a minute. You're still connected with elementary friends?
I am.
That's awesome.
Well, we're having this reunion. I think it's my 40th high school reunion.
Wow.
Things are going up. There are pictures going up from kindergarten, our kindergarten classes, and it's a little crazy.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
Okay, but sorry.
So the psychotherapy piece kind of, that part of it sort of evolved just very simply. It was just sort of the next logical step. I went from thinking I wanted to be, I went to college. I was going to be an actress. And then I had like a gazillion different majors because I love everything. So I was trying everything, but then I landed in pre-med and just loved everything physical. Just could not get enough of biology and genetics. And
amazing.
I was going to be a surgeon. And then I thought, well, I better do some volunteering and make sure that this is really what I want to do. And so I did. And I was far more interested in talking to people, both in a what's it called? Where you go in the ambulance. Emergency room. Emergency room. I was much more interested in talking to people than I was in what was happening with their bodies. So I sort of went from med school doctor to then thinking psychologist, and then I ended up in social work, and sort of the part that really resonated there for me is sort of meeting the client in their world where they are. And that just spoke to me. And so that's what I did for many, many years. And over the course of my life and my kind of searching and growing and evolving, I came crashing into the world of metaphysics eons ago with actually Shirley MacLaine's book, Out on a Limb. And so that started this parallel route that was kind of going along at the same time as this therapy And I found myself more and more and more sort of on the edge of therapy, dangling off into the metaphysical world. And in, I guess, 2000, late 1990, is it 19? Yeah, it was in 1900s. No.
I know, right?
Yeah, whatever, a while back.
1990 something.
Some time ago, I got a bee in my bonnet about writing a book. And that's how Balloon to the Moon came. And then after Balloon to the Moon, I started doing retreats with people, and it just sort of took off. So this metaphysical sort of helping people reawaken to their passion, reawaken to their core essence, their authenticity, just sort of took off. So that's a very long-winded answer to, I think, what's supposed to be an elevator speech.
No, not at all. It's whatever it is for you. We're not that formulaic, maybe I should spend time systemized, but no, it's really what it is for you. And since it's different for everybody, that's perfect. Because that's what we're learning about is you and your story. And it really is different for everybody. I think, and you see this with your clients, where there are those that have the light bulb moments that you help facilitate, which is amazing. But then there are those that come to you because they're somewhere on the journey already and just need a little pointing and redirecting. So, but where did you said you got to be in your bonnet about the book Balloon to the Moon, and that was your first book, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so do you remember what was the mitigating kind of environment or circumstance in your life that inspired you? Was it working with clients? Was it something going on personally?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. I have always wanted to write a book. I love authors. I love writing. So it wasn't an out of the sky notion. I started novels in my 20s. I've done a lot of writing. So it wasn't a surprising thing. And people around me had been nudging me to write a book. And it just seemed like sort of the logical next step. What is interesting about that process is I threw out an entire first draft of a book. So what ended up happening when I started writing is I ended up dealing with this voice in my head of nobody's going to want to read that. You need to be writing what people are going to want to read. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up with this book. And I remember at one point I just sat down and I was looking back over it, and I just heard so clearly in my head, that's not your book. Throw it out. And I did. Wow. And then I wrote the book I wanted to write, which was Balloon to the Moon. And that was much more channeling, much more sort of, what I wanted to write.
Well, I've heard from authors that really, you end up throwing away about 3/4 of what you write, essentially, and trimming back. And certainly I know writing and publishing on our website and media properties, that's it. I end up writing so much more than I intended. And oftentimes they end up actually being divided into 3 different articles even, because there's so many different avenues you can take. But one of the things that I really appreciate about marketing is learning the art of saying more in less. And so that's part of it with writers. It sounds like, you were getting the engines oiled, so to speak. You were greasing the mechanism to, get ready for the second book, the more significant one.
Yeah.
That was waiting to be born, so to speak.
Yeah. And it's so much easier when I'm out of the way. I don't know, people have different processes. But for me, there are parts of Balloon to the Moon, the tail end chapters. There was one chapter that actually got written while I was horseback riding, speaking into a handheld. And it just came, bloop. It was just born. It's like I had been pregnant with it, and out that chapter popped. So it's this thing that happens, at least with my creativity, when I get out of the way and when I can just be myself, it just does its thing. It does what it needs to do, which is kind of a cool thing. And it's much more fun.
It is. It really is. And that's such a good point, because so many people think of, and even writers who are actively writing think of the chore of sitting down at the desk in the morning, waiting and forcing creativity. And you have those that are the proponents, like Stephen Pressfield, who's one of my indirect mentors through his books, and certainly for my husband as well. Love his work, love the art of work, his book, love his blogs about creativity in the process, and his discipline to sit down for the first 4 hours of every day to write no matter what. And I think there's a lot of merit to that. And to also being out of the box, so to speak. So almost always, like oftentimes when the weather's 6 months out of the year, approximately, and here in North Carolina, the weather is nice enough for us to ride bikes outside. We live in as you can see, a wooded environment. It's a small subdivision with hills, and so we do hill sprints on the bike. And invariably, by like you were talking about in horseback riding, when we're biking up the hills, I'm, pressing the record thing on my phone because I had several articles, or business ideas, or new domains to purchase come up during that time. So it really is shaking it up and freshening up our environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's all about energy. I mean, I know in my world and in my work with people, we talk a lot, and I do a lot of work on myself just in terms of energy. And if the energy is off, everything's off. So if I'm going to push myself to do something, like let's say the writing 4 hours every morning, if I can't within a fairly relatively quick time sort of use that process to come back to center, which sometimes works. Sometimes it doesn't, then I've got to get out. So if I'm pushing uphill and I'm getting further and further away from sort of my core and my authentic self, what I've found is that for me, I've got to come back to center. I've got to clean up the energy before I take any action, I've got to be an inspiration. And I find that the older I get, and we're both 56, which is kind of cool. But the older I get, I am getting insanely greedy about every single moment of my life. And I've had some health things in the last 10 years, and I'm acutely aware of my mortality. And I have, and not necessarily in a negative way, though I do wish I could be 20, but from where I am now, right? I don't want to do this over again, but just if I could have an extra 30 years. So I've got like this, huge, wide open in front of me. That would be awesome.
Right.
But I have, I don't suffer inauthenticity well anymore in myself, in other people, in moments, I just have gotten really greedy.
Yes. No, I would say that you're very protective of the priceless treasure that we all have, and that is time. And because there's no replacing that. We can make more money, we can create more business, we can whatever, but we can even make more friends, but we cannot create more time. So Rhegina.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. I remember we started out talking before we started recording that my best friend in high school was named Rhegina. And so if I skip over, then just remind me, but it's Rhegina. What kind of name is it, by the way? Rhegina?
Well, actually, I was born Rhegina, and I grew up in France. My parents were in the Foreign Service, and so I grew up in France and Holland, and I was in the French school, so I was Rhegina. And about the time Balloon to the Moon came out, I had a massive transformation, and something was going to happen. I was either going to put a, bone through my nose or tattoo my forehead or something. I just felt different. And that's when I added the H, and I legally added the H. And actually my name has an accent on the E. And so it's really, to me, when I look at that, it's Rhegina. And it kind of takes me back to that pixie kid who climbed trees and ran in the woods, and that energy that sort of that eternal child that lives in all of us.
Excellent.
So that's what that connection goes back to. So
beautiful.
I answer to anything.
Okay. No, that's beautiful. And so you speak fluent French?
I do.
Excellent.
I do.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Well, you mentioned on your site, and again, I hope everyone goes to read it, you talk about this authentic self. You say that whatever brings you into therapy, because you are a therapist, you're still a practicing therapist, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You say whatever brings you into therapy, there is a solution, and in every issue, there's a hidden treasure. Could you elaborate on that?
Oh my gosh, I'm huge on that. So the people, ironically, I find, and I've been in practice almost 30 years now, and I find in my life and in the life of people that I work with, as much as we all hate heartaches, and as much as we all hate sort of having our lives ripped apart in whatever way that is, whether it's the relationship falling apart, whether it's a health issue, whether it's a family issue, whether I started in childhood trauma, so whether it's childhood trauma, whatever it is, I find that that's where we grow. I wish I could be mamby-pamby, Pollyanna and say, we grow and evolve because we do. Well, no, we don't.
No.
And there's something about us as human nature, as humans, we find change incredibly difficult. And so that edge and that pain sort of is what provokes us and pushes us. And I find that people go in one of two directions. So you have this huge heartbreak and this huge, crisis, whatever it is, and there's sort of this fork in the road that you can veer off sort of to the left into the this is awful, this is horrendous, why is this happening, this is god awful. Well, and I should say we all do that at first, right? So let's be clear, we're human beings.
Right.
So we have our tantrum, our fit, we're devastated, whatever it is that's being taken away, and then we have this fork where we have this conscious choice.
Yeah.
And I really believe, and I think it's in Balloon to the Moon I talk about this, I mean, if I'm going to be climbing through brambles and thorns and pricklies, and I'm coming out bloodied on the other side, I am so coming out with a treasure. Like, I'm just, right? I am not crawling through brambles and getting scratched, and you've got wood, so you know how it is. You get, stuck in poison ivy and
So if you're going in the briar patch, you're coming out with blackberries.
Absolutely. And I'm coming dripping, and I've got them in my pockets. And so that's sort of how I see it. Like, it is an opportunity. And I don't believe the universe is an evil place. I believe that our higher selves, our intuition, our whatever you want to call Yoda, I don't even think it matters what we call it. But there's a part, that non-physical part of us invites us into challenges and invites us into difficult situations. And it's an opportunity. And I have never seen someone have a cloud without a silver lining. Never.
Beautiful.
I've seen people not use them.
Yeah.
That I've seen. But my gosh, the people that I've seen use them, and it's almost like the harder the life almost, or the more willing people are to be vulnerable and open, then it's the deeper they go, the more spring and the more bottom they get to then sort of, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever that pew.
Yeah. To soar,
that's it. Something.
Soar.
Something that goes up.
Yeah, the balloon. Back to the balloon. To elevate. Definitely. I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because and clearly you're passionate about that because you've seen that kind of transformation and what's possible. So many people look at when problems happen, then they focus on the problem and not, focus on the dark cloud and not the silver lining. And so just to realize that little shift can make a world of difference is really powerful. We tend to wait for big transformative moments, or kind of like with your journey, it was a process. It was a journey step by step, mine as well. And, a few spiritual insight highlight kind of things along the way, but for the most part, it's all about the journey and then what we focus on. So if we wake up in the morning, for instance, and we think, and we're tired because we didn't get as good a night's sleep, then we tend to. Well, you look fantastic for not if you didn't, but we tend to wake up and think, I'm so tired. With every foot away from the bed toward the bathroom, we're thinking, I wish I could go back to sleep, and I'm so tired. And therefore, we're reaffirming and reinforcing that exactly that we do not want to have. So I start my morning actually with 20 squats. While I'm waiting for the water to heat up, I just very quickly, and I'm still so foggy that I'm not even thinking about do I want to or not. I just do it. And suddenly my system is turned around and I start waking up and energized and ready.
And you're ready to go.
Ready for the day. Yeah. But so many people get stuck in that, that dark place, because when it is, and we had an incredible, wonderful storm here last night where it was literally the raining buckets. It sounds like it's coming your way. But
I think so. We're waiting for it.
Yeah. So, but when it's like that in our environment, and it's hard to imagine and remember for that time the blue sky.
Exactly.
And that when it's so heavy, it's hard to remember that this too shall pass. And there is a silver lining, there is a rainbow, there is a blue sky after the storm. Every storm in life is followed by blue sky. So that is hard to remember, and it's wonderful that that you're doing that work in the world. And I think that a lot of boomers in particular, we get to the place in life in our 50s where it's like, wait a minute, and you talk about that in your work where people think something's missing, even if they think they have it all.
Even if they have everything.
Even if they have everything, materially, relationship, whatever. If there is that void, then that is a good sign, because it's that, it's that wake up call to say, wait a minute, address something else. There's something more for you. So could you speak to that a little bit, that moment of tapping into, when they experience that void, or else whether they're in that storm place, what do you recommend? What are some of your first recommendations?
Stopping. So one of the things we do is we go. And it is, everyone has a void of one kind or another. That's why we're alive, and we're all growing. We're all evolving. So there's no such thing as a person who has every single piece of their pie put together. There's always room for growth. There's always opportunity. And obviously it ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's easier and more fun, and sometimes it's deeper and harder. But I think the daily habits, like you were talking about, getting up and doing squats, like right off. So physicality is a huge one. To just get out of bed and to get moving, like immediately before anything even, sinks in. But the other piece is, and I think we're so, guilty is probably way too strong a word, but we're so prone. We have these sound bites, and, we can do things with our apps, and bam, in a moment it's fixed, or it's done, or it's switched, or we can have this now, or we can, and there's this huge wave of sort of law of attraction thing. And I think what ends up happening is we end up losing the depth. So one of the things that I tend to have people who come to me in one of two camps. They're either coming to me from the camp of, I'm always working on myself, and I'm always in a deep, deep, dark place, and I don't really know how to touch the light. And so they've got the depth. Or I have the people who come in and they're saying all the right things, and it's all the right sound bites, but they're not connected to their pain. They're not connected to any depth, and so it's shallow. So I see my work as sort of it's really marrying these two pieces. It's being clear about when there's negativity or hardship that's meant to be mined, that's meant to be sort of alchemically processed and changed, sort of led into gold. And when we've got somebody who's just, and I think we do this a lot, who's just stuck in sound bites, and living like a silverfish at the surface. And for some people that's great, but those aren't the people who find me. So if someone's walking into my office or picking up the phone, they're interesting, I call them the whales. We're the deeper ones. We're the ones who are, who want to embrace life with capital letters, and, really live fully from all sides. So I think for some people, so it's a complicated answer. So some people, we're going to have them getting away from their process and sort of remembering to step outside and watch a ladybug, or to remember what they were doing when they were kids and what did they love, or to remember to laugh, or to remember to hug, or to just stop all this work that they're doing, because no matter where anybody is, they're perfect. They're perfect exactly as they are right now. I mean, and it's all we can be anyway, so it might as well be perfect. And then we can go from there. And then for other people, it's inviting them to stop and just be quiet for a moment. Like, let's just let's just stop. Let's just see what wants to speak, what wants to express itself, what wants to,
Yeah, to be born in that moment. Yeah, that's really important. I don't know if you're hearing snoring in the background, but if you are, it's my dog. She's a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel.
That's fabulous.
She snores, yeah. So
I can't hear him.
Good. I don't know if anyone else can hear, but that's the explanation.
That's what's happening.
It's not someone here. It's not me, right? It's just what's happening. So along the lines of what you're saying, I've just got your homepage up on your site, which I love. And again, it's your quotes. The first one: "Our minds compose the symphonies of our lives. Our thoughts are the orchestras that bring them to life. Like great conductors, we can pull tremendous potential out of ourselves and bring it to fruition." And that's from Balloon to the Moon. Is there anything you want to say about that?
I think we have so much control. You know, it's interesting because a lot of us control a lot. And I find that for myself and for other people, we tend to control the things that we shouldn't be controlling. Mm-hmm. And the things that we should be controlling, we're not controlling. So that quote is really about being mindful and engaged with what is going on between our ears. And most of us don't pay much attention to that. We're much more focused on the negative comment that our neighbor made to us 3 days ago than we are even being aware of what we're saying to ourselves all day long, every day, 365 days a year. Right. So and we are the storytellers. So, you know, in that quote, I'm talking about the orchestra and the conductor. We conduct, and at any moment we have, I mean, there's a gazillion things even in this, office that I could be focusing on right now. And I'm choosing where I'm focusing. And I also have a choice about how I'm, so I'm looking at you. I have a connection, and I have control. I have editorial, I've got the red pen. So if I'm not liking what's happening right now, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the storyteller who's sitting on my shoulder. And I think that we don't use that enough. Or the conductor, to stay with the quote. I'm famous for this. I'm mixing analogies.
That's okay. No, I'm with you there. Oh, I got it.
Right? But we don't pay attention to that. We're so externally focused, and we're so focused on what did somebody say to us, and I'm going to control this situation. I'm going to make this person behave a certain way so that I can feel a certain way, as opposed to, wait a minute, I'm going to deal with my little conductor or my storyteller. And once we have control of, well, we never have control, right? It's an ongoing forever thing. It comes and goes. Yeah. But once we have a working relationship with this conductor or this storyteller, we really affect what kind of life we have. Yeah. So as I'm heading into the brambles, it sucks and it's lousy and nobody likes to be pulled through the brambles. But if I'm grabbing some berries, some blackberries along the way, and I have access to my higher self because I do some meditation, and I have my higher self tracks saying there's a reason this is happening, just stay patient, there's a lesson to be learned. And I'm asking questions like, what am I meant to learn from this as I'm sitting in the brambles? I am changing, it goes from like a horrible sounding garage, banging on a trash can to this incredible symphony, even in the middle of the brambles. Yeah. So it doesn't mean I'm going to be peppy, happy in the middle of the brambles, but it's going to have meaning. It's going to make sense. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's going to have, absolutely. Yeah. So that's what that quote is talking about. And it goes further in the book, but that's what that is about. Excellent.
And so really, what you're talking about is one of the things that I'm really passionate about, and that is expanding awareness and helping others to do the same. Yeah. Because I believe that we are, our divine selves is pure awareness. Yeah. And that our task is to merge our animal selves and the lower selves with the higher self, and for the higher self to permeate every cell of our being. And the more we do that, the more it is that we do that by simply that process of becoming aware each moment of what we're thinking about and how it is we're conducting the symphony of our life.
Yeah. And that those thoughts are changeable. They're mutable. We get this notion, especially once we're in our 50s. I mean, and you can see this really clearly. Sort of we hit that 50 benchmark, and there's a great divide, right? There's people who very quickly start physically falling apart and crashing. And then there are people who really start taking off, and sort of what you're talking about, sort of reinventing themselves, writing books, going to the Taj Mahal, climbing mountains. Yeah. And it's this moment where there's this opportunity for tremendous transformation, and for this notion that we have a choice. Like it's not set in stone, and how we move through life and what we're looking for and what thoughts. I mean, we do need to be aware. What am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? Mm. And where it's sort of the analogy I use, it's sort of like you're walking around with a little potted plant, this little sunflower, and you're kind of walking around and you're like, do you like it here? Do you like it here? And you're kind of finding in your mind sort of the sunniest place for your sunflower, like the place where it's going to feel the best.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of control over that. We have choices. We
Definitely.
absolutely have choices.
Definitely. And if we don't like where we are, then that's the dark place, and we need to move to where it is. And I don't mean literally or physically, although it could be.
Yeah.
We move our consciousness, and that's the thing. That's the easiest thing to shift.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like people falling apart or getting themselves more together, physically, mentally, emotionally. So do you also exercise? Do you have a physical exercise regimen?
I do. It moves around. Well, we have 2 big dogs. So every morning, so I was laughing when you were saying, you get up and do squats. Yeah. I've got Sammy and Goji at the door, kind of like chop, chop, let's go at 6:15 this morning. So there's not even time to think about, I didn't sleep, whatever, we're going. Yeah. And I was cranky this morning. So off I went cranky. Like it took me much longer than your squats this morning, I will assure you. But off we went. So that happens. And we hike them 3 times a day. So nice. Sometimes myself, sometimes my partner, I'm doing at least 1, sometimes 3. So that's one thing that happens. And then, it moves around, and it's moved around a lot in the last 10 years. So I can't say, yes, I've got this regimen. I swim. I love to swim. I love to be in lakes. I love to be in water. I love walking. I love bicycling. I love kayaking. There's nothing right now. I love yoga. I used to do Bikram yoga. That used to be religious. Mm-hmm. Right now, that's off the table right now, because it just doesn't meld with where I am.
Uh-oh, you locked up. Hang on a second. Rhegina? Sorry, we'll have her back in just a minute. Rhegina? Sorry about that. My internet connection is unstable, but it's back now.
I saw a big thing that went up. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, sorry. That was on my side. We've had problems with our internet, and we've had a lot of work been going on the past couple of months.
Yeah, no problem.
But you're back now, and we just lost you where you were talking about you've done everything and the Bikram yoga, and that's not where you are right now. So basically, it's the whole array, and now it's nothing specific. It's kind of like whatever happens when it happens. Is that what you're saying? Uh-oh, we lose you again. I am not sure why that's happening. Rhegina? We'll give it another minute. Rhegina? Are you there? Are you there? Okay. Well, maybe she'll dial back in. Sorry about this, folks. We have had, it's amazing, we've been on this same setup for many, many years and no problems until June. And so beginning June of this year, June and July, and here it is starting in August as well, we've had amazing amounts of problems with connections with Wi-Fi on a number of different levels, with airport terminals, with computers. So anyway, it's been our turn, I guess, to catch up with that. And we'll try and get Rhegina back, hopefully any second. I think I will... If she doesn't dial back, I'll just pause this recording and we'll pick up with part 2. There she is. She's back.
There you are.
Hey, I still love those glasses. Either way, you look awesome. And I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened, other than I'm not surprised. Actually, it might even be the weather interfering, but my camera was showing still strong, so I'm just not sure what's happening. It's just been one of the mysteries. It's like lately in our area, Mercury has been on retrograde steroids on turbocharge, because literally, as I was saying to the audience while you were off screen for a little while, that we've lived here for years, many years, and not had the kind of problems we've had over the past 2 months. So it's just one of those things. It'll work itself around. But I'm glad you're back. Thanks for calling back in.
Yeah. No, I just waited. You just came back. It was just going around and around. And then all of a sudden there was a little bell and there you appeared.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Well, so one of the things about exercise that I also publish on a site, mytrainerfitness.com. It's a sister site to the Boomers Reinvented. And one of the things that we often say there is, I regret that I got healthier and fitter, says no one ever. Right? And you have a similar thing on your site that you says, no one ever said on their deathbed, I wish I'd spent less time feeling excited about my life. Yeah. Yeah. So that's
true, right?
Yeah. And so that's one of the things that you help people do, is get more excited about their lives. Could you share perhaps what you have observed, or some of the most common problems that people you serve in your psychotherapy practice, as well as your events, what it is that they're wrestling with? I mean, I know there's a range, but do you have some of the top things?
Yeah. Well, I think we get lost in our heads. And I think that in our society, we get lost in what matters. We get lost in, I mean, I can see, we were talking about Facebook briefly. When I look at Facebook, you can tell what people are into, and this movement about business and sort of being successful in business and driving towards this, notion of success and monetary success and things and things that actually take us away. And not that there's anything wrong with that. It's all in how we do it. But things that take us away from the conversations that at the end of the day or at the end of a lifetime really matter. And at the end of the lifetime, it's all about love and relationships. And it's about the love and relationship we have with ourselves, and then everything that echoes out from that. So that whatever it is that we're doing, it's doing it from that place where we're connected. It's sort of like what you're talking about. You use different words, but it's the same thing. It's sort of that non-physical part of ourselves just shining through every single pore of our being, and then seeing what happens. And so often what happens for people is we get so caught up in the physical part, whether it's business, whether it's alcoholism, whether it's addiction of one kind, or we've got addictions are rampant, a lot of addictions. Whatever it is that has us so stuck in some conversation that keeps us from connecting with our true essence. I mean, that, if I were to whittle down sort of what I think all of us are working on, I'm no exception. I'll be working on this until the day I die. I get it, and then it's gone. And then I get it, and then it's gone. And it's like, are you kidding me? How is this, how is this even gone? I have a video. I'm not sure it's on my website anymore, but I remember I did a video some years ago, and I was across the street with my friend Lorianne, and I said, I'm meditating every day or something. And I was saying it like, you'd thought I had just discovered, teeth brushing every day. And she's looking at me like, what are you even talking? I mean, it really was on that level. Like I just rediscovered the wheel. But that's what I think we do. We rediscover over and over, and we come back and we come back and we get lost and we come back and we get lost. Back. So I think it's that balance, and it's that breaking sort of the cult is not the right word, the trance that we have with this very external world. It's so seductive, and it's so easy to get caught up. And there's nothing wrong with physicality. I mean, we're on a physical planet, and I believe we're meant to interact. And if driving a Mercedes is fun, absolutely. Pull the top down, drive it, have a blast. But the Mercedes is not going to make you happy. The business is not going to make you happy. The best-selling book is not going to make you happy. It's helping people flip how they're going through life, or how they're looking at life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. And it's funny, as you were talking, I was reflecting on how my journey has been almost flipped, because I basically dedicated my first 30 years of life, 25 years of life to spiritual esoteric pursuits, and, you know, establishing that inner connection with myself. And it's only been in my late 40s and actually early 50s, even beginning now, early 50s, that I discovered how exciting business is to me and how I love it. What I love about it is it's back to, you know, the orchestra, the conductor. It's like each opportunity is a new song that we are then not only writing, by writing the music too, but then we have a chance to conduct. And so I love the creative part of it. So I think it really is. I think that you're talking about the trance, and that's why I'm so focused on awareness, because no matter almost anything we do, if we keep doing that, you know, any kind of repetition automatically puts us in the trance, basically. It's when and that's one of the reasons people love travel, is because it gives them variety, but also takes them out of routine where
that must be you. There's the bell.
Sorry about that. Yeah. I don't know. Let me see if it's still recording. It doesn't show. So